Campfire Classics is a classic literature podcast. However, your hosts will occasionally use not-so-classy language and immature humor to describe very mature situations. As such, listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Ken Sandberg.
And I'm Heather Michelle Waller.
Welcome to Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
I'm here, and I'm singing again, and so everything's good. I also have a glass of wine. That got high.
That got high.
Much?
I'm also guessing it wasn't super close in pitch to the music that was playing under it.
Oh, probably not. I can't hear that. Only you can hear that. That was probably a really weird Sondheimy dissonant melodical thing.
That's what it was. That's what it was. It wasn't atonal. It was Sondheim-esque.
That was a sneak peek of the new Sondheim musical.
Coming this season to Broadway.
Which is actually coming this season to Broadway, but no one's heard any of the music, or we don't think we have.
So I challenge you to tell me that wasn't from the musical.
Ha ha! My best friend Steven, who we lost, but yes, he shared that song with me before he went. Hello, everybody. I'm feeling much better this week than I did last week. If you listened last week when I was just suppressing the phlegm balls from erupting from my mouth as I did things, but I'm feeling better now. So yay! You'll hear a regularly scheduled program singing today.
Already have. That's what we started with.
I know. That's why I was just jumping right back in.
Right.
Because I didn't feel like I had to suppress my soul by the mucus.
Soul suppression.
I felt like my soul was being suppressed by mucus for a solid week and a half. Oh yeah, abso-freaking-lutely. Oh my gosh. I could not function. It was horrible. But I'm coming back, y'all.
That's an intense X-Men superpower. Soul mucus.
Suppressing mucus.
Yeah, soul mucus.
I feel like
I can't come into work today. I have mucus of the soul.
I mean, don't we all right now a little bit? I mean, a lot of shit went down this week though. Trump got indicted. He's actually currently flying into New York and about to get arrested. So,
cool. He's turning himself in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's what they said.
He just wants to be a martyr, so, don't give him any attention.
Well, it also, the optics are a little better if you turn yourself in than if you get dragged out of your house in handcuffs.
But that's hilarious. But yeah, so there's that. We went and saw the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which was super fun.
It was a good time.
That was super fun. We had a good time with that. We went to the punk rock flea market, which was interesting.
Finally saw Knives Out yesterday.
We saw Knives Out. The first one.
Yep.
Which was fantastic. Now I know what all the fuss was about, so we're excited to watch Glass Onion now, which is the second one. What else we did? I feel like we've done a bunch. Oh, I got a job.
Yeah.
This week.
That's the big news here.
That's exciting. So I will be in Philadelphia, but I got a job. I'm gonna be Betsy Ross. Betsy Ross, and we found a really good song by what was his name? Paparazzi.
It's like Paparazzi and the Photogs.
Yeah, it's like Paparazzi, but Paparazzi and this guy's basically like Stephen Lynch meets
Wesley Willis.
Yes, there we go. It's Stephen Lynch meets Wesley Willis, so it's just kind of odd and funny. And he wrote this song about taking Betsy Ross on a date, which I find hilarious.
It's a good song, good tune.
But yeah, so I start training for my historical interpretation character. Going back to my Colonial Williamsburg days, y'all. So if you're in Philadelphia this summer, you can come watch me sew.
Well, you tell stories about
sewing.
Your many husbands.
Jeez. Betsy Ross got around.
She got around.
She had 3 husbands, and she was single the last 20 years of her life. So I have a theory that Betsy Ross is actually like a black widow. And all her husbands were named John. Like every single one of them.
She had a type.
She had a type.
They were all military boys,
too. They were all military boys who died like young.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's been a productive week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how things are going here. I hope things are going well for you too, campers.
And it's getting warm out, so
it's getting warm out. So
camping might actually become like a thing. We were just outside the other day, went for a long walk in Philly, and I was like, I want to go camping.
Not long ago, we sat down by our fire pit in the backyard. That was nice.
Watched the thunderstorm.
Watched a thunderstorm.
Oh yeah, there was
roll
a
in.
tornado warning. Like, well, a bunch of places in. I hope everyone's okay. By the way, because I know a pretty bad tornado hit Little Rock, Arkansas, where one of my good friends is from, Kate. And then a pretty decent tornado hit Iowa City, Coralville, which is where my family's from. So, yeah, I hope everyone's safe. But that same storm came through Philadelphia and New Jersey, which was crazy because Ken and I got stuck at a bar.
Yeah.
We were walking home from like this beautiful outing when it was like 75 degrees and sunny. And then we're sitting there waiting for our food, and it was like a span of 5 minutes.
Watching the storm roll in.
Like,
it was madness.
Like, it was crazy. And so we got stuck in this bar. So I hope everyone's safe and is ready for the springtime.
But also, if you ever find yourself needing to weather an oncoming storm, I highly recommend doing so at Hilltown Tavern in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's a nice, friendly, cozy little place for it.
I enjoyed it. That was fun. I mean, if you're going to weather a tornado, weather the storm, might as well do it with a pint in your hand.
Yeah. Watching the Philadelphia Phillies get beat by Texas like 16-3.
That was like the worst baseball game I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah, it was rough.
I was like, ugh.
But bemoaning bad Philadelphia sports teams is not what we do here at Campfire Classics, nor is recounting the weather, although sometimes it is interesting enough to be worth it. Yeah. What we actually do here is read short stories that we find out of the public domain.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we cold read them sight unseen, and this week I have selected a story that Heather is going to read. But before we get to that, I've got just a little snippet that I want to cover in this week's installment of Clown Corner. So like many things in this podcast, Clown Corner started out as a short bit that I did to be a little bit funny and a little bit annoying, and it's grown and grown sort of exponentially and out of my control. But this week I'm keeping it very much short.
Okay.
Very much on purpose.
All right. Well, okay.
The irrational fear of clowns is called coulrophobia.
I actually did know this because I have some.
Now, it can be caused by some sort of trauma, childhood experience with clowns, an unfortunate painting of a clown
that hangs above your bed, yes.
That sort of thing. However, more often it is believed to be linked to the phenomenon known as the uncanny valley. The uncanny valley is the human tendency to fear or hate things that look almost human.
Oh.
It's the reason we find dolls with incredibly realistic eyes.
Creepy.
Really creepy. It's the reason why we're pretty comfortable with robots that look like R2-D2, but those like sex dolls that are given latex skin and shiny eyes are really unsettling to look at.
I was shopping at Giant this week.
Speaking of sex dolls.
No, I was doing our like grocery shop for the week, and there was a fucking robot like wandering the aisles, and I got really freaked out. Like I was like, oh my God. Like I didn't like it. It was like clean. It had a sign on it.
Yeah.
It says, "Don't mind me. I'm just here to keep your store clean and fresh," or whatever. And I went, this is not it. This is how we all die. When the lasers start shooting out of this machine.
Yeah, I saw that last time I was there too. It's basically a giant Roomba, but it's also got a little price scanner on it.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's like 7 feet tall. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't like this at all. I got out of there so fast. I was like, I don't want to be in this aisle. I don't like it. I don't want it. It was very disconcerting. Anyway, and that one doesn't look like a person,
No.
but it was still not it.
Yeah, still a little creepy. But it is true that the closer something that isn't human looks to being human, the more upsetting we tend to find it. And the theory is that the clown makeup makes a clown look just not human enough that uncanny valley kicks in.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Now, this uncanny valley is an evolutionary sort of thing that we learned, and there are all sorts of creepy theories about why human beings developed this fear of things that look almost human but aren't. Like, where in our history were we running across some sort of predator that looked so human that we got afraid of things that look a little too human? Was this an alien invasion? Is this just a thing where, like,
the other, like something like a different, like, races, other, like, it's like, I mean, that there's also probably that in there.
Is this something hanging on from, like, Neanderthals were very close to Homo sapiens, and so we but whatever it is, yeah. So that's my
an alien or an alien invasion,
shape-shifting aliens.
Yeah, I'm into that too.
Yeah. But that's the Uncanny Valley is actually super interesting, and you should go research it if you're interested. But that's not about clowns. It has nothing to do with Clown Corner. Basically, I just brought it up to point out that if you, dear listener, have a fear of clowns that you can't quite pinpoint, you've always been a little creeped out with clowns, what it means is you're having trouble registering a clown as quite human. And that is this week's Clown Corner.
All right. I like it. Short, sweet, to the point, and dissecting people's psychology issues.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, you should definitely take psychology notes from this show.
Absolutely. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's real.
All right, so moving on to what it is we normally do. As I said, we cold read short stories that we pull from the public domain, and you get to hear us struggle our way through them as best we can, complete with mispronounced words, bad accents, weird penis jokes.
I got to use the skills we do on this podcast for an audition this week. They handed me a story cold, like to story tell, and they were like, "Here, read it once and then do it." And they were like, "Do big voices, do things." I'm like, I looked right at them and went, I have prepared for this. If you want to hear some dumb voices, you should listen to our podcast." So yay! We even like help ourselves, not even just help you listeners, but we help ourselves.
Yep. But before we get into the story, I'm going to read a few fun facts just to sort of set the tone.
Fun facts.
So this week we are returning at listener request to a guy that we've read a couple of times before, Mr. Ambrose Bierce.
Okay. I think the first one we did for him was Owl Creek, right?
Yes. Yeah. So we've read him twice in the past. One for episode 12, Here Comes the Boom Boom, where we read Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. And then episode 67, What Happens in the Locker Room, where we read Beyond the Wall.
Oh, yeah.
Now, You've covered him in a decent amount, you know, his personal history. He fought during the Civil War, wrote a ton of war and horror stories, and is generally considered to be a great author by critics, readers, and other writers. Oh, right, and his death is totally a mystery because he went to Mexico to fight in the Revolution, and we never heard from him again.
He just, maybe got abducted by aliens and had some of that uncanny valley.
The uncanny valley thing. Well, your co-hosts, dear listener, in the past have wildly speculated that he either became a vampire or was picked up by Marty and Doc Brown in the DeLorean.
Yes. Because those are, now I'm going to throw another one in there. The Doctor.
Or the Doctor.
These are all clearly the most obvious answers.
Yeah. He definitely just didn't get taken out by a firing squad.
Definitely not.
So that stuff we've all hinted at before, I've just got a couple more little pieces of color that I want to add to his background.
Okay.
Because it turns out that he was actually a fairly important figure politically, too.
All right.
2 stories. First, the railroad companies of America had taken out huge loans from the U.S. government.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
By the mid-1890s, those loans were starting to come due. A couple of the bigger companies were sending lobbyists to Washington, D.C. to try to convince a friendly congressman to forgive the debt.
So this really is like Back to the Future 3. Okay.
So this would actually be something akin to like if the government were to give loans to and then bail out some other major business
Like
sector, like the automobile industry in 2008.
And the airline industry, and I don't remember when that was, but yeah.
So the money they were trying to get forgiven amounted to $130 million, or about $4.5 billion in today's currency. And the essence of their plan was secrecy, right? The railroad's advocates hoped to get a bill through Congress that would forgive all of their debts without any public notice or hearings.
Yeah, because that always works.
Bierce got wind of the plan, and he and his editor decided they didn't like it, so he went to D.C. to make sure that everybody knew what was going on.
Exposing the bullshit.
The lobbyists basically offered to pay him off to keep his mouth shut. They were like, name your price, whatever you want. Name your price. It's fine. Bierce's answer ended up being in newspapers nationwide. My price is $130 million.
Jesus Christ.
If, when you are ready to pay, I happen to be out of town, you can hand it over to my friend, the Treasurer of the United States.
Damn, that's cold. That's some Jon Stewart level like brilliance right there.
His writing sparked huge public outcry, and the bill forgiving the loan was struck down.
Wow, good for you. Calling out the bullshit.
Yeah.
I love it.
Standing up to the big corporations.
Yep.
A few years later, Bierce was blamed for the assassination of President McKinley.
Wait, he was blamed for it?
Indirectly.
Okay.
He published a poem in 1900.
Okay.
In this poem, there were 4 lines that read, "The bullet that pierced Goebbels' breast cannot be found in all the West. Good reason, it is speeding here to stretch McKinley on his beer." That was published in 1900. In 1901, when McKinley was shot, many people, including the U.S. Secretary of War, claimed that the poem had incited the attack.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I don't want to go on a political tirade, but like I'm just thinking of the internet now.
Yeah.
Like that is pretty crazy. And honestly, like when you're a writer or when you have a platform, you have to be careful what you put out there because the wrong person could interpret it, but that's not really your fault.
No.
Like he's just making art. Some wacko just was like, okay. And,
but think about the reaction that massive crowds have had to 140 tweeted characters in recent history. Like the written word has power.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like people people don't think about that when they put shit online and it like, is it necessary? Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go into a big political tirade, but wow, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah. So obviously it was nonsense. He was not attempting to incite an assassination, and the whole fervor soon passed. Bierce's editor stood by him the whole time, allowed him to continue writing for his paper, but still, people definitely believed in the power of the written word, clearly, including the Secretary of War.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are just a couple of instances of this week's author being a motivating political factor in the world.
Very inspiring human in one way or another.
This week, you'll be reading an Ambrose Bierce story from 1893, first published in Town Topics, called The Damned Thing.
Oh, The Damned Thing. Yeah, let's start the fire.
Let's start this fire.
The Damned Thing by Ambrose Bierce.
Yeah, read the damn thing.
Also known as Angela Bassett Did the Damn Thing. The second you said the title, I was like, that's all I could think of. So, anyway, I know that's a little like last month, but anyway. Okay, The Damned Thing by Ambrose Bierce. By the light of a tallow candle, which had been placed on one end of a rough table, a man was reading something written in a book. Well, I'm glad he was reading something in a book and not, like, in his mind.
Or written in blood.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't know that the book's not written in blood.
It could be, yeah. By the light of the silvery moon.
It was an old account book, greatly worn, and the writing was not, apparently, very legible, for the man sometimes held the page close to the flame of the candle to get a stronger light upon it.
Don't burn it.
The shadow of the book would then throw in obscurity of half of the room, darkening a number of faces and figures. For besides the reader, 8 other men were present. 7 of them sat against the rough log walls, silent and motionless, and the room, being small, not very far from the table. By extending an arm, any one of them could have touched the 8th man, who lay on the table, face upward, partly covered by a sheet, his arms at his sides. He was dead.
Well,
Whoa!
I figured when you described him as on the table covered in a sheet, he was either dead or this was some sort of weird sex party.
I just was not expecting the end of that paragraph to end up with a dead body.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, shit. Okay. Well, all right. So we got a bunch of men. One of them's reading, I'm guessing, this dead guy's account book.
The dead guy's account book, yeah.
And a bunch of guys sitting around waiting to see who is in the will or something like that.
The Damned Thing. A.K.A. the dead man's accountant.
Yeah, something like that. Okay. All right. So now we have a dead body. Okay. That was abrupt. The man with the book was not reading aloud, and no one spoke. All seemed to be waiting for something to occur. The dead man only was without expectation. Hey, you don't know.
As far as we know.
As far as we know. From the blank darkness outside came in, through the aperture that served for a window, all the ever unfamiliar noises of night and the wilderness. The long, nameless note of a distant coyote, the stilly, pulsing thrill of tireless insects in trees, strange cries of night birds, so different from those of the birds of the day, the drone of great blundering beetles, and all that mysterious chorus of small sounds that seem always to have been but half heard when they have suddenly ceased, as if conscious of an indiscretion. Ooh, creepy. But nothing of all this was noted in that company. Its members were not overmuch addicted to idle interests in matters of no practical importance. That was obvious in every line of their rugged faces, obvious even in the dim light of the single candle. They were evidently men of the vicinity, farmers and woodmen. So they're used to all these noises.
Yeah.
The person reading was a trifle different. One would have said of him that he was of the world, worldly a bit there was that of his attire, which attested a certain fellowship with the organisms of his environment. His coat would hardly have passed muster in San Francisco. His footwear was not of urban origin, and the hat that lay by him on the floor, he was the only one uncovered. Ooh, scandal. His head isn't covered?
Well, no, he's just the only one polite enough to take off his hat inside.
And there's also a dead person. It's kind of like a, vigil. Because the other guys, like, they're wearing their farm hats. Like, they don't take their hats off.
Yeah. But I like that our narrator is all like, no, his coat was no good. His shoes were outdated.
His coat wasn't good enough for San Francisco. And, so he wasn't super worldly, but he was more worldly than the farmers. We don't know where he's from. The hat that lay by him on the floor, he was the only one uncovered, was such that if one had considered it as an article of mere personal adornment, he would have missed its meaning. In countenance, the man was rather prepossessing, with just a hint of sternness, though that though that he may have assumed or cultivated as appropriate to one in authority. For he was a coroner. There we go. All right. Okay, now we know his business there, and that's... I don't know why he's reading the account book, but... It was by virtue of his office that he had possession of the book in which he was reading. It had been found among the dead man's effects in his cabin, where the inquest was now taking place. When the coroner had finished reading, he put the book into his breast pocket. At that moment, the door was pushed open and a young man entered. He, clearly, was not of mountain birth and breeding. He was clad as those who dwell in cities.
Fucking city slickers.
City boy coming in here and telling us what to do with our dead bodies. His clothing was dusty, however, as from travel. He had, in fact, been riding hard to attend the inquest. Okay, so he found out about the dead body and got on a horse and was like, yeehaw, gotta get to the country. All right. The coroner nodded. No one else greeted him. Uh-oh. We have waited for you, said the coroner. It is necessary to have done with this business tonight. The young man smiled. I'm sorry to have kept you, he said. I went away not to evade your summons, but to post to my newspaper an account of what I suppose I am called back to relate. Oh, he witnessed something. This is very Ambrose Bierce. It's it's putting it in the paper to, like, assure it's going to get out.
Yep.
So he put it in the paper before in case something happens to him now.
The people need to know the truth.
They must know the truth. I'm assuming he knows who killed this guy or something. He witnessed something that, and now he's in fear of his own life. So he went and put it in the paper. So if something does happen to him now, yada, yada. Okay. He just watching his ass. The coroner smiled. The account that you posted to your newspaper, he said, differs probably from that which you give here under oath. That, replied the other, rather hotly and with a visible flush, is as you choose. I used manifold paper and have a copy of what I sent. It was not written as news, for it is incredible, but as fiction. It may go as part of my testimony under oath. Interesting. But you say it is incredible? That is nothing to you, sir, if I also swear that it is true. The coroner was apparently not greatly affected by the young man's manifest resentment. He was silent for some moments, his eyes upon the floor. The men about the sides of the cabin talked in whispers, but seldom withdrew their gazes from the face of the corpse. Presently, the coroner lifted his eyes and said, "We will resume the inquest." The men removed their hats. The witness was sworn.
Oh, now the hats come off.
Oh, okay. What is your name? The coroner asked. William Harker.
What is your quest?
Age? 27. You knew the deceased, Hugh Morgan? Yes. You were with him when he died? Near him.
It's an interesting distinction.
Yeah, near him. So, not holding his
hand. We weren't together.
We weren't cuddling. But
no. We weren't.
No.
I wasn't with him.
I wasn't with him. I was just in his presence, but not too close. Keeping it real. How did that happen? Your presence, I mean. I was visiting him at his place to shoot and fish. A part of my purpose, however, was to study him and his odd, solitary way of life. He seemed a good model for a character in fiction. I sometimes write stories. I sometimes read them. Thank you. Stories in general, not yours. Well, snap. Well, bitch, okay.
Oh, no. I love reading.
I don't like reading your shit.
Not you.
You're trash. Some of the jurors laughed. Against a somber background, humor shows highlights. Soldiers in the interval of battle laugh easily, and a jest in the death chamber conquers by surprise. Relate the circumstances of this man's death, said the coroner. You may use any notes or memorabilia that you please. The witness understood. Pulling a manuscript from his breast pocket, he held it near the candle, and turning the leaves until he found the passage that he wanted, began to read. Dun dun. Part 2.
Thank you. I've written my testimony down.
Yes.
I read now from my latest short story.
Please get it in this week's Vogue magazine. Thank you. The sun had hardly risen when we left the house. We were looking for quail, each with a shotgun, but we had only one dog. Morgan said that our best ground was beyond a certain ridge that he pointed out, and we crossed it by trail through the chaparral? Chaparral?
Chaparral?
Chaparral?
I don't know. Let's look it up.
It comes up again, so I'm guessing this is a kind of landscape or something?
Yes.
Oh, was I right?
Chaparral.
Chaparral
is a shrubland plant community and geographical feature found primarily in California and southern Oregon. Yeah, so basically that's the equivalent of saying we were making our way through the grassland or we were making our way through the hills or whatever.
It's like a bushland.
Yeah, it's
the
type of topography.
The bushland. We were making our way through the bush.
We were hacking our way through the bush.
No, he was just near me. Nothing was going on. On the other side was comparatively level ground, thickly covered with wild oats.
Sometimes you gotta sow those.
Huh? You gotta sow those oats?
Sometimes you gotta sow those wild oats.
Well, I think they're about to. As we emerged from the chaparral, Morgan was but a few yards in advance. Suddenly, we heard, at a little distance to our right and partly in front, a noise as of some animal thrashing about in the bushes, which we could see were violently agitated. We've started a deer, I said. I wish we'd brought a rifle. Morgan, who had stopped and was intently watching the agitated chaparral, said nothing, but had cocked both barrels of his gun. He's cocking his gun. Ching ching, sowing his wild oats.
He's got 2 barrels?
It's like the doctor with 2 hearts, but instead he's got 2 barrels to cock. Yeah. He's an alien. Isn't it? Go back to the alien invasion. Yep. He had cocked both barrels of his gun and was holding it with readiness to aim. I thought him a trifle excited.
Sometimes that does make it harder to aim. I'm just saying.
If you cock 2 barrels, and that would make it hard to aim. And now he's super excited.
Yeah, you do need to hold it to aim sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. If you're courteous of those around you,
especially if it's a long shot.
Oh, Lordy B. We're excited. I thought him a trifle excited, which surprised me, for he had a reputation for exceptional coolness, even in moments of sudden and imminent peril. Oh, come, I said. You're not going to fill up a deer with quail shot, are you? Still he did not reply, but catching sight of his face as he turned it slightly toward me, I was struck by the pallor of it. Then I understood that we had serious business on hand, and my first conjecture was that we had jumped a grizzly. Oh no. I advanced to Morgan's side, cocking my piece as I moved. Oh no. No, we got three pieces
3 barrels.
Cocked. 3 barrels cocked. All right. I have a feeling this is not a bear.
Yeah, probably not a bear, not a deer.
It's going to be something creepy. The bushes were now quiet, and the sounds had ceased, but Morgan was as attentive to the place as before. What is it? What the devil is it? I asked. The damned thing, he replied, without turning his head. Oh, shit, we got the title of the story and the first time we've heard Morgan talk.
All right.
That's some, double whammy of importance right there. I'm going to say it again because it's that important. The damned thing, he replied, without turning his head. His voice was husky and unnatural. He trembled visibly. I was about to speak further when I observed the wild oats near the place of the disturbance moving in a most inexplicable way. I can hardly describe it. It seemed as if stirred by a streak of wind, which not only bent it, but pressed it down, crushed it so that it did not rise. And this movement was slowly prolonging itself directly towards us. Ew. It's like a crop circle.
So whatever's out there is coming towards us.
It's like a crop circle. Moving. It just kind of like bends the like the wheat over or whatever. It's like, but you, like nothing's.
But you can't see what it is. But you just see that the wheat's moving or the oats are moving.
What the fuck? Nothing that I had ever seen had affected me so strangely as this unfamiliar and unaccountable phenomenon. Yet, I am unable to recall any sense of fear. I remember, and tell it here because, singularly enough, I recollected it then, that once, in looking carelessly out an open window, I momentarily mistook a small tree close at hand for one of a group of larger trees at a little distance away. It looked the same size as the others, but being more distinctly and sharply defined in mass and detail seemed out of harmony with them. It was a mere falsification of the law of aerial perspective, but it startled, almost terrified me. So we rely upon the orderly operation of familiar natural laws that any seeming suspension of them is noted as a menace to our safety, a warning of unthinkable calamity.
This is weirdly falling in line with the uncanny valley.
I know, it really is.
I love it when that shit happens.
I know, it really is. Like, it's all like, if something seems off...
It probably is.
Well, if something seems off, our intuition as human beings, as animals... makes us go, something's not right, and it makes you look into it further. So, like, he was up in a window once, and it looked like a tree was moving or something, but it's like, nope. It was just a weird
My depth perception
thing.
Was weird for a minute, but...
And now he's looking at this grass bending over and going...
Feeling the same sort of thing.
Something's not right, but I don't know what it is. But, like, you get that thing in your stomach that's like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So now, the apparently causeless movement of the herbage and the slow, undeviating approach of the line of disturbance were distinctly disquieting. My companion appeared actually frightened, and I could hardly credit my senses when I saw him suddenly throw his gun to his shoulders and fire both barrels at the agitated grass. Before the smoke of the discharge had cleared away, I heard a loud, savage cry, a scream like that of a wild animal, and flinging his gun upon the ground, Morgan sprang away and ran swiftly from the spot. Shit. He just, like, shot at nothing and ran?
Yep.
I would follow him, brah.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
get the
I'm
fuck
thinking.
out of there. At the same instant, I was thrown violently to the ground by the impact of something unseen in the smoke, some soft, heavy substance that seemed thrown against me with great force. Ooh, it's like the smoke monster in Lost. Before I could get up... Oh, yeah, that's the noise.
It's actually... Do you know what the noise is?
A raptor?
No, it's the... It's the
ticker tape?
The little ticker thing for receipts in a taxi cab.
Ticker tape, like a ticker machine. Yeah. I think I did know that. But,
I remember the
like a behind the scenes or something.
No, I remember the first time I was walking down the streets of New York after having watched some of Lost for the first time, and I heard that sound when someone got out of a cab, and it freaked me the fuck out.
That's funny, because I watched Lost. So the first experience I had with Lost was my roommate watched it, and I watched one episode, in season 4. Like, season 4 had started. Mm-hmm. And I watched one episode, and I loved it, even without knowing what the fuck was going on.
Sure.
And, the following week, I got the flu. Really bad flu, and was down for a week. I mean, this is me a couple weeks ago. And so I went to the Blockbuster on the corner in Queens, and I rented the first 3 seasons. I rented one, and then I fucking watched all 3 seasons, back to back to back to back. I don't remember having that experience, but I do remember being oddly freaked out by flying and all these weird, all of a sudden
Yeah.
Yeah, you watch a show like that where ultra paranoia is the thing, and all of a sudden every noise and everything, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yep. I also had a very healthy, unhealthy obsession with Sawyer.
That's fair. A lot of people did.
Oh, the bear cage. Anyway, moving forward.
I was
25. You know, what are you gonna do?
I was always Team Saeed, but
I love Saeed. I loved Saeed, but I just had a I always like the bad boy. What can I say, sweetie? Okay, so he just got whacked by a smoke monster. Okay. Before I could get upon my feet and recover my gun, which seemed to have been struck from my hands, I heard Morgan crying out as if in mortal agony, and mingling with his cries were such hoarse, savage sounds as one hears from fighting dogs. Inexpressibly terrified, I struggled to my feet and looked in the direction of Morgan's retreat. And may heaven in mercy spare me from another sight like that. At a distance of less than 30 yards was my friend, down upon one knee, his head thrown back at a frightful angle, hatless, his long hair in disorder, and his whole body in violent movement from side to side, backward and forward. His right arm was lifted and seemed to lack the hand, at least I could see none. The other arm was invisible. At times, as my memory now reports this extraordinary scene, I could discern but a part of his body. It was as if he had been partly blotted out. I cannot otherwise express it. Then a shifting of his position would bring it all into view again. Oh, God. So he's like fucking going through like stigmata in the middle of this field or some shit. Like, he's like, I mean, it's like he's possessed or something.
Yeah, and in my head, what's obscuring parts of him is the smoke monster, yeah. But I don't know if that's...
Like there's something in the way, but you can't see what it is, yeah. All of this must have occurred within a few seconds. Yet, in that time, Morgan assumed all the postures of a determined wrestler vanquished by superior weight and strength. I saw nothing but him, and him not always distinctly. During the entire incident, his shouts and curses were heard, as if though an enveloping uproar of such sounds of rage and fury as I have never heard from the throat of man or brute. Yeah, this is aggressive. For a moment only, I stood irresolute. Then, throwing down my gun, I ran forward to my friend's assistance. I had a vague belief that he was suffering from a fit or some form of convulsion. Before I could reach his side, he was down and quiet. All sounds had ceased, but with a feeling of such terror as even these awful events had not inspired, I now saw the same mysterious movement of the wild oats prolonging itself from the trampled area around the prostate. I was saying it, and I was like, I know it's prostrate. I know what my mouth is going to do, and it's going to say prostate.
But it didn't. It said prostrate, and then you went back and said prostate.
I know. Because my subconscious wanted it to be prostate, and I knew it intellectually was correct, and then I went
the invisible terror was seen moving away from the trampled man's prostate.
Oh, ouchie. All right. I now saw the same mysterious movement of wild oats prolonging itself from the trampled area around the prostrate man toward the edge of a wood. So now it's leaving.
Yep.
Oh, God, gross. It was only when it had reached the wood that I was able to withdraw my eyes and look at my companion. He was dead.
Well, yeah, when you get your prostate trampled.
That does tend to, mess with your body.
Yeah.
All right, and then we go dun-dun, part 3. The coroner rose from his seat and stood beside the dead man. Lifting an edge of the sheet, he pulled it away, exposing the entire body, altogether naked. Well, that seems rude. Put some pants on the man. Lord, now we just got a bunch of men sitting around staring at a dead naked dude. Like, come on. I get it. The coroner needs him naked to do, like, an examination. Does everyone need to see the man naked? I guess they're all excited to see 2 guns cocked.
Are his barrels still cocked?
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, probably not, because if they were, there would have been a little tent action going on.
Yeah, like a little, like, fort.
Yeah.
A little, like, table fort. and our friend would have come in and been like, oh, are we playing fort? Yay! Oh, wait, it's just my friend Morgan. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now he's naked. Okay, so he's exposed to the entire body, altogether naked, and showing in the candlelight a clay-like yellow. It had, however, broad maculations of... Okay, maculations, like bruises?
I would
marks.
Guess.
I think it's marks. I've heard that on a medical show before, for sure.
To maculate is to mark with a spot or to stain. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just marks. It's a fancy way of saying...
You're marked up.
You got bruise spots.
You got fucked up because the smoke monster beat the shit out of you.
He looks like a banana.
He looks like a bad banana. It had, however, broad maculations of bluish black, obviously caused by extravasated
Oh, there it is.
Extravasated blood.
Extravasated.
So it's like clotted blood, I'm guessing?
Of a fluid, especially blood, let or forced out from the vessel that naturally contains it into the surrounding area. Extravasated.
So it all goes to one area, like from the contusions, yeah. It had, however, broad maculations of bluish black, obviously caused by extravasated blood from contusions. Damn, that was like... Fucking, hi, Chicago Med, Heather Lawler, she's available. The chest and sides looked as if they had been beaten with a bludgeon. There were dreadful lacerations. The skin was torn in strips and shreds. Good God.
Got beat up real bad by something.
The damned thing sucks, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to know. I don't even want to know. The coroner moved round to the end of the table and undid a silk handkerchief which had been passed under the chin and knotted up the top of the head. When the handkerchief was drawn away, it exposed what had been the throat. Some of the jurors who had risen to get a better view repented their curiosity and turned away their faces. Witness Harker went to the open window and leaned out across the sill, faint and sick. Dropping the handkerchief upon the dead man's neck, the coroner stepped to an angle of the room and from a pile of clothing produced one garment after another, each of which he held up a moment for inspection. All were torn and stiff with blood. The jurors did not make a closer inspection. They seemed rather uninterested. They had, in truth, seen all of this before, the only thing that was new to them being Harker's testimony. "Gentlemen," the coroner said, "we have no more evidence, I think. Your duty has been already explained to you. If there is nothing you wish to ask, you may go outside and consider your verdict." The foreman rose, a tall, bearded man of 60, coarsely clad. "I should like to ask one question, Mr. Coroner," he said. "What asylum did this here last witness escape from?" Wow.
More comedy.
Yeah, this guy sounds like he's super impartial. "Mr. Harker," said the coroner gravely and tranquilly, "from what asylum did you last escape?" Harker flushed crimson again, but said nothing, and the 7 jurors rose and solemnly filed out of the cabin. "If you have done insulting me, sir," said Harker as soon as he and the officer were left alone with the dead man, "I suppose I'm at liberty to go?" "Yes." Harker started to leave, but paused with his hand on the door latch. The habit of his profession was strong in him, stronger than his sense of personal dignity. He turned about and said, "The book you have there? I recognize it as Morgan's diary. You seemed greatly interested in it. You read it while I was testifying. May I see it?" "The public would like..." "The book will cut no figure in this matter," replied the official, slipping it into his coat pocket. "All the entries in it were made before the writer's death." Well, yes,
Duh.
But that might explain why this thing came and killed him. As Harker passed out of the house, the jury re-entered and stood about the table on which the now covered corpse showed under the sheet with sharp definition. The foreman seated himself near the candle, produced from his breast pocket a pencil and scrap paper, and wrote rather laboriously the following verdict, in which various degrees of efforts all signed. We, the jury, do find the remains come to their death at the hands of a mountain lion. But some of us thinks, all the same, they had fits. Part 4. In the diary of the late Hugh Morgan are certain interesting entries having, possibly, a scientific value as suggestions. At the inquest upon his body, the book was not put in evidence. Possibly the coroner thought it not worthwhile to confuse the jury. The date of the first of the entries mentioned cannot be ascertained. The upper part of the leaf is torn away. The part of the entry remains as follows. Would run in half circle, keeping his head turned always toward the center, and again he would stand still, barking furiously. At last he ran away into the brush as fast as he could go. I thought at first that he had gone mad, but on returning to the house found no other alteration in his manner than what was obviously due to fear of punishment. Can a dog see with his nose? Do odors impress some olfactory center with images of the thing emitted from them? September 2nd? That's my birthday! Yay!
Yeah, probably nothing bad happened.
What was
in honor of your birthday.
In honor of my birthday. I mean, clearly this was about 100 years before I was born, but... September 2nd. Looking at the stars last night as they rose above the crest of the ridge east of the house, I observed them successfully disappear from left to right. Each was eclipsed but an instant, and only a few at the same time, but along the entire length of the ridge, all that were within a degree or two of the crest were blotted out. It was as if something had passed along between me and them, but I could not see it, and the stars were not thick enough to define its outline. Ugh, I don't like this.
That's creepy.
Yeah, that's real creepy. That's like a fucking UFO.
Something.
Like, yeah. Ugh.
Blocking out the stars.
Several weeks of entries are missing. 3 leaves being torn from the book. That's never a good sign.
Nope.
September 27th. It has been about here again. I find evidences of its presence every day. I watched again all of last night in the same cover, gun in hand, double charged with buckshot. In the morning, the fresh footprints were there as before. Yet I would have sworn that I did not sleep. Indeed, I hardly sleep at all. It is terrible, insupportable. If these amazing experiences are real, I shall go mad. If they are fanciful, I am mad already. October 3rd. I shall not go. It shall not drive me away. No, this is my house, my land. God hates a coward. October 5th. I can stand it no longer. I have invited Harker to pass a few weeks with me. He has a level head. I can judge from his manner if he thinks me mad. October 7th. I have the solution of the problem. It came to me last night, suddenly by revelation. How simple, how terribly simple. There are sounds that we cannot hear. At either end of the scale are notes that stir no chord of the imperfect instrument, the human ear. They are too high or too grave. I have observed a flock of blackbirds occupying an entire treetop, the tops of several trees, and all in full song. Suddenly, in a moment, at absolutely the same instant, all spring into the air and fly away. How? They could not all see one another. Whole treetops intervened. At no point could a leader have been visible to all. There must have been a signal of warning or command, high and shrill above the din, but by me unheard. I have observed, too, the same simultaneous flight when all were silent among not only blackbirds but other birds, quail, for example, widely separated by bushes even on opposite sides of a hill. It is known to seamen that a school of whales basking or sporting on the surface of the ocean miles apart, with the convexity of the earth between them, will sometimes dive at the same instant, all gone out of sight in a moment. The signal has been sounded, too grave for the ear of the sailor at the masthead of his comrades on the deck, who nevertheless feel its vibrations in the ship as the stones of a cathedral are stirred by the bass of the organ. As with sounds, so with colors. At each end of the solar spectrum, the chemist can detect the presence of what are known as actinic rays. They represent colors, integral colors in the composition of light, which we are unable to discern. The human eye is an imperfect instrument. Its range is but a few octaves of the real chromatic scale. I am not mad. There are colors that we cannot see. And God help me, the damned thing is of such a color. The end. Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah. Also,
what a
fascinating
cool structure.
That in, what was this, 1893?
Yeah, that he knew. Well,
he's talking about ultraviolet and infrared light waves. He doesn't have those names for it.
Sides of the spectrum with sound. Yeah. And that's crazy. Yeah, that was very contemporary awareness of light and sound. And also I love the structure of this story. It was, okay, there's a dead man.
Yep.
Harker shows up, and then we get Harker's testimony, but we flash back to the actual day.
Right.
So it's happening in real time. Then we flash forward to the jury deciding what actually happened and him asking for the book. And then we get to actually hear, after Harker's gone and it's basically case closed, we actually hear what he wrote and how he fucking saw an alien. That's an alien. He saw something otherworldly because he figures it out. The last day he writes in his journal, he's like, it's something it's something it's a color that I can't see. And because the space was getting blocked out, it's some alien craft, some UFO situation had come in and he saw it fly in. Oh, that's so spooky and so fun. I really, really liked that story.
So I just looked it up. Infrared light was discovered in 1800. Ultraviolet was discovered in 1801.
Okay, so it was knowledge. It was
knowledge that was sitting out there, but it wasn't
because technology didn't exist to the point.
Yeah.
Now everything we use has some sort of that light and everything, but that, I really liked the story. I liked the way it was structured.
That was
very
a kooky
much.
Little one.
That was fun. Also, eerie, and because you don't get I love stories where you don't get the answer.
Yeah.
There is no answer.
Because you don't need it.
Well, there is no answer. It's we don't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Something unseen and unknown killed him in front of someone else. So he watched it tear him apart and leave. And they think he's crazy because he's a fiction writer and whatnot. But he's like, no. And you hear in his book that he brought him in to be the sane one because he is level-headed. Not one bit of him is that guy was crazy. He's like, yeah. Yeah,
no, I saw things that were off too, and I didn't like it.
I saw things I cannot explain.
Yeah.
And I want to leave now. Thank you. I never want to come back to this place ever again. Ooh, I liked that one a lot. Did you like that one, readers? Because I liked it. That was the right kind of spooky. It was a mystery.
Yeah.
And a ghost story and a cryptid.
Sci-fi horror mystery thing.
Ooh, I liked it. I like Ambrose Bierce. He slays. I've liked all his stories.
Yeah.
He slays.
Hope you enjoyed.
He did the damn thing. Ambrose Bierce, you did the damn thing.
Hope you enjoyed that return to Ambrose.
Yeah, I did.
That
was fun.
Well, hey, let us know what you thought about that one, listener, and whether you, I don't know, want to hear more Ambrose Bierce or not.
I liked that your Clown Corner fun facts were very in line with that. That was super
sort
fun.
Of eerily prescient.
Yeah. Well, and even like his like fun facts of him being a writer, and Harker like is like was exposing the truth about something.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing of like exposing the truth.
Yeah.
Kind of tied in. So like all three sections just kind of molded together in a synchronicity that we can't explain because we can't see all the colors, everybody.
Or hear all the sounds.
Are you alone right now?
Are you sure?
Ew! I love it.
Hey, listener, have you ever experienced a I'm seeing this thing and it's not quite right? It triggers something that I don't know, maybe you have certain feelings about. Triggers your fight
or flight.
Triggers your fight or flight, and you can't really explain why. You just know you need to get out of there.
Oh yeah, women out there all the time.
Please share that story. And I know there are cases where it's like, yeah, there was a creepy dude. I knew I had to get away, or I saw a fucking bear and I wanted to run. But I'm talking about the things where like, whatever, it's broad daylight, you're in a safe place, and you just experience something, see something, whatever, that makes you go, ooh, intuition's kicking in, I need to be gone.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, not an obvious trigger.
That happens to me a lot. I get like, I'll go walk into a space or something and I just get a yucky feeling.
Yeah.
And it can be
So write in and let us know what you thought about Ambrose 3.0, and if you have any stories where your uncanny valley kicked in.
Yeah, we'd love to read them.
When you write in, please include this week's. When you write in to 5050hoursproduction@gmail.com or any of our social media. Just look for Campfire Classics podcast on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or wherever you do your thing. Tell us all that stuff and include this week's secret passcode, which is 2 barrels cocked.
2 barrels cocked. Love it. 2 barrels cocked.
That's all for me. You got anything else?
That's all I got. That was fun.
Well then, until next week, this has been Campfire Classics, where we try to read those books that look really good on your shelf.
I just wanted to do something creepy.
Sure. I think you succeeded.
Boogity boogity.
That was less creepy and more